Welcome to episode 4 of Lessons in Stories. My name is Shri, and let's waste some time together. Vivarium is a 2019 sci-fi thriller that touched upon the suffocating nature of marriage, suburban lifestyle, and parenting in the 21st century in a kind of satirical and metaphorical way. And because the movie didn't get as much hype, I didn't get to hear about it all the way here in India. I had only watched the film about 2 weeks ago, and this video is mostly about my experience and interpretation of the story, not the actual intention of the film. If this movie came out in the last decade, or even say 5-6 years ago, I wouldn't have looked at it the way I do now. Just like I didn't give much attention to Contagion when it first came out in 2011, now suddenly it's trending everywhere. We all know why. Although I'm sure Vivarium won't be getting the same treatment. But something about the movie's subject matter and the way the concept was treated, I couldn't help but relate this film to our current situation, our isolation, our fears, our loneliness, and the unknown. Here's why. Vivarium was released in 18 May 2019, 6-7 months before the coronavirus pandemic began in China. So I'm pretty sure the writers and directors had no intention of basing it upon the current state of 2020. In fact, Lorcan Finnegan, writer-director of Vivarium, even admitted to the movie being inspired from his 2008 short film Foxes. But as I watched the two main characters, Tom and Gemma, go through their individual stages of fear, loneliness, anger, and insanity as they find themselves in an inescapable situation, I couldn't help but relate them to our situation, the lockdown, staying at home, and slowly going insane. By that, I don't mean the clinical definition of insanity, but how our minds and bodies are reacting to this forced isolation, recognizing it as an abnormal thing. While many people are joking about people complaining for getting 2 months off work, on the inside, we all feel this restless agitation and hopelessness because human beings were never meant to be boxed inside 4 walls or a cubicle, and this isolation solidifies this. We all need adequate sunlight and movement because humans come from hunter-gatherer ancestors who moved around, and this type of a forced lifestyle can make people dysfunctional, obese, addicted, lethargic, sick, and mentally troubled. Even for me, as a lifelong introvert, this situation right now feels very abnormal, and I could sense the same feeling as I sat through Vivarium, watching Gemma and Tom slowly deteriorate in front of my eyes. Be advised though, heavy spoilers ahead for Vivarium. There's your warning.
Welcome to Yonder.
From the very beginning, when the couple go to buy a house, the nature of the property and the estate agent who shows them around seem very out of place. The neighborhood is called Yonder, where every house is a clone, nothing separating one from the other. This immediately makes Gemma and Tom and the audience confused, as humans are not used to that kind of sameness. We crave individualism and a difference in ourselves and the things we own. We don't choose the same careers or the same kind of paint job as our neighbors. The word yonder itself too is strange. It could mean over here, over there, or that way, like the word itself is lost and wandering. There's also the number 9 house, but I'm not gonna get anal about every single word, number, or symbol in this movie. Anyways, immediately Gemma and Tom get boxed in this particular circle of houses, unable to find their way out and emptying their gas tank while driving around, and we know that something bad is going to happen. When they look for a way out the next day, they decide to follow the artificial-looking sun above till they find some road or exit. The entire day passes, and by sunset, they realize that they've been spinning around in circles around the same number 9 house, and a tired, broken Tom tries looking above his house and finds Yonder to be stretched to infinity with no exit in sight, a vastness that's completely empty and alike. This entire scene made me reflect on my own situation right now, where we all feel like this pandemic is an inescapable reality, stretched throughout the world with no end in sight.
We're gonna get out of here.
We're all surrounded by artificial lights, boxed into our own tiny apartments with artificial screens and interactions over social media, everyone's experience being the same. And yet, though it all sounds grim, there's something happening to us all across the globe. Unlike Gemma and Tom, who were forced to feed on artificial, plasticky food, in real life people have gone back to their human roots, doing things people used to do since humans became humans: baking, creating things, learning, reading, exercising, and cooking. Things we used to ignore during the busyness of our lives. Maybe because we're not in the exact same hell as Gemma and Tom, where even the simple pleasure of the taste of food is taken away from them. That is a horrific hell. Back in the film, the couple discover a baby in a box and they're told in a vague letter to raise this child to be set free. This is their kidnapper giving them a glimmer of hope, and it's the first instance where both of them have found a means and an end to their journey. They just don't know it yet. Soon enough, they find that this child is no human, but some abominable creature that keeps growing and growing till it looks like a 7-year-old boy in a span of 3 months. Not only that, he is very nosy, demanding, and mimics these two, not in a child-to-parent way, but in an obnoxious, intrusive way. This reverts back to the cuckoo scene at the beginning of the film, where cuckoos lay eggs on their rival birds' nests and kill the other babies, and the mother bird, who didn't know about it, raises these doppelganger babies who are very greedy and even eat the surrogate mother's share. Again, I couldn't help as I watched it, but it reminded me of the coronavirus itself and the current paranoia that surrounds it. The way this virus grew amongst people all over the world, just like the rapid growth of this child, made me feel Gemma and Tom's initial frustration as they try to ignore the kid and even harm it.
That boy is always watching.
That's not a boy.
Not realizing how dangerous this thing could get if allowed to fester inside their house, just like we didn't realize when the disease began to spread. As their mental and physical health deteriorates, surrounded by this artificial sun, artificial food, and a growing plague-like creature in their home, both of them revert to stereotypical, predetermined gender roles as their own individual coping strategies. Gemma as the caring mother, and Tom as the handyman to-doer. Granted, both of them had these traits from the start of the film. From Gemma being a school teacher and Tom being a gardener, it was still not determined if they wanted children or wanted the home life so soon. With Tom's emotional distancing pushing Gemma away from him, she finally starts to engage with this strange boy instead of ignoring or demonizing it, as a way to maintain her sanity and also to devise a plan for escape. At the same time, Tom tries to ignore the boy and their current situation by digging a hole in the front yard as some sort of escape tunnel because it gives him a sense of purpose. But he only keeps digging it deeper and deeper with no means to an end, while his mental and physical health takes a toll. This entire scene was so powerful to me for so many reasons. First, Tom looking for a purpose while digging the hole reminds me of my own situation right now. I was actually sending out resumes before this pandemic started. Now, no one is currently hiring, so I'm trying to learn new skills to upgrade my existing skills in filmmaking and editing. But as I'm trapped in my own house, it just feels pointless sometimes, like digging a hole with no end in sight. At the same time, both Gemma and Tom reverting back to their stereotypical gender roles has a close connection with our survival. Like I said before, men and women are not supposed to be locked inside 4 walls for long periods with artificial lights and processed foods. But as Gemma tried to cope by reasoning with the boy, when it comes to us women, if the sudden responsibility of motherhood falls upon us by choice, or in this case by force, suddenly we can cope and often feel obligated to stay indoors for a while, at least till the child can be left safely with someone else. The same cannot be said about most men. They've always felt this innate sense to be the provider, the protector of the family, to get on their hands and feet and do something to fix a problem. But when Tom gets that stripped away from him, he feels hopeless and distant. He realizes that he can't protect his wife and himself from this horrid creature and also escape the situation that they're in, so he tries grasping at straws. Tom's physical and mental health keeps deteriorating to the point where they now have both become very weak, and this child has now grown strong enough and transformed into an adult. Crushed and captive for a year now, both Gemma and Tom are now united in their fear of this boy, who is now a full-grown man. He leaves the house every day and they don't know where he goes. And this whole time, I couldn't help but think about how the coronavirus kept growing and spreading until no one knows how to control it anymore, except stay indoors and do nothing. This thing attacks the most vulnerable populations, mostly infants and old people, and we are all beaten down by our fear of this thing and united by fear, just like Tom and Gemma. Since the parasite wins in this movie, I don't want that to happen to us. Why? I believe that because Gemma and Tom were just two people, they couldn't fight it. But since we are billions of people going through this together, I think we have a fighting chance. We can't give up hope and start grasping at straws, distancing ourselves from our loved ones completely and accepting our current reality to be permanent. This is not the end, but it is the beginning of a brand new kind of life. The best thing we can do right now is improve ourselves, our health, and our relationships with people and things. If we stick together, we can get out of yonder. So that's it. Those are my thoughts regarding this film, my own interpretation of its themes and hidden meanings. What do you think? Do you have your own interpretation? What are your general thoughts on this film? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I didn't waste your time. See you next week.